really interesting work here on this paper, and of course the relevance now is really interesting because it tells us how the Catholic Church was involved in helping to reshape Argentinian debt. When you look back on that now, what does it tell you?
Well, I think that the Church's relationship with the government in Argentina is very complex. It's reluctant to embrace the government and the government's economic policies in general. But in the matter of the debt, the crushing burden of the Argentine debt in the early 2000s, at 1.50% of the Argentine people were below the poverty line, and unemployment rate was close to 30%. The Church, drawing upon religious and moral traditions of the Church, weighed in, I think, very importantly in that debate, representing civil society and arguing that, yes, even though debts contracted should be paid, there were moral limits to how much sacrifice could be demanded of the people. In other words, human development at some point has to take precedence over debt service after reasonable efforts, as I write in the paper, are made to pay the debt.
So, Thomas, is there thoughts that in his new role as the Pope, he could be getting involved in the austerity debate in Europe?
Well, I think the Church is loath to tread too deeply into the details of, whether Mr. Cameron's policies or Paul Ryan's policies or wherever are the right policies. I don't think it wants to get into that level, but it always wants, I think, drawing upon the Church. And I think looking at the life of this man, Jorge Maria Bergoglio, looking at his life, I think they're always going to want to see what's the impact on the average person, and in particular, what are the impacts of these policies, which may sound good to the macroeconomists and to the banks and to some politicians, but what are the impacts on the poor, and especially the poorest of the poor?
Yeah,
he will not intervene directly.
There's this wonderful quote in a piece I read about your article, and it's from Bergoglio when he was cardinal, and he said at the time of the restructuring the debt, said, "The unjust distribution of good persists, creating a situation of social sin that cries out to heaven and limits the possibilities of a fuller life for so many of our brothers." So really addressing the needs of the poor through a restructuring of debt. And I've got to wonder, given what's going on in Europe, if he doesn't very much get involved in economic matters.
Well, I think I wouldn't be surprised either. You're right about that. I do think he's talking about the particular circumstances that we face here in Latin America, where the poverty levels are more extensive, the income distribution is far less just, and the levels of human development are generally lower. I do think there is a context there to his comments that can't immediately be superimposed, let's say, on Europe. But yes, I think what the man has written and the bishops that he led have said would lead me to believe that there's a message there for those who preach austerity, but might, beyond a certain point, human development has to take precedence. And I think that'll be his message. But I do believe it'll be low key, because I think that seems to be his style.